letter that Paul wrote. It's definitely the last one we have record of. And it's a letter that's written right at the end of Paul's life. There's a lot of very familiar verses here. We're going to look at one specifically in chapter 1 here in a second. But if you think about it, the relationship Paul had with Timothy was very close. And you would think in his dying wishes of what he wants Timothy to know, there's some important things listed here. So in chapter 1, there's one thing he says in verse 5 I want to pay attention to. I am mindful of the sincere faith within you, which first dwelt in your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice, and I am sure is in you as well. Paul talks about this faith that Timothy has, and it's been around for a while, actually. And it was from his grandmother, his mother, and now he has this faith. But did you know in verse 6, it starts out by saying, for this reason I remind you, even strong Christians who have been Christians for a while need reminders sometimes. And I think we need to take this to heart. No matter how strong you are, no matter how rock solid that you've been in your faith, sometimes we need a reminder. What is he reminding Timothy of here in verse 6? For this reason I remind you, to kindle afresh the gift of God which is in you through the laying on of my hands. Now, what kind of gift was given to people by the laying on of the apostles' hands? I mean, it was those miraculous signs and wonders, right? The gifts of the Spirit that we would talk about sometimes. But did you know that even those gifts of the Spirit, it's not like something that Timothy just was forced to do, like the Spirit just overwhelmed him and overtook him and caused him to do all those things. No, he had the choice of whether he was going to use those or not. And based on what Paul was telling him, he hadn't been using them. And so he says, you need to kindle afresh those gifts, the spiritual gifts that I gave you when I laid my hands on you. You need to remember that. If Timothy had to be reminded to use his special miraculous powers, how much more do we need a reminder to use the gifts and talents, abilities, the things that God has given us? I think we need that reminder more often than not. And this is really encouraging to think about. Even Timothy had to hear that. If I'm not doing what I need to do, I need to hear that too. Doesn't matter how long I've been a Christian, doesn't matter how long I've been faithful, I need to remember to use my gifts for the Lord because that's what he expects of me. And there's, by the way, verse 7 tells us some reasons why we don't do that sometimes. He says, for God did not give us a spirit of timidity, but of power and love of discipline. So a lot of times we're scared. And it's fear that stops us from using our gifts, from reaching out and being encouraging, for reaching out to people with the gospel. But instead of fear, he gives us 3 ways that we need to remember God's Spirit is leading us. The first way, he says, the Spirit, it's a spirit of power. The same power that helped Jesus conquer death is the power that God has given us. So we remember his Spirit has power. The second thing, it's a spirit of love. And if we love other people enough, it's going to motivate us to want to reach out, to help people, to encourage them, to bring the gospel to the lost, and just to just get over ourselves and use the gifts that God has given us. Now, the third thing almost seems like it doesn't fit. He said we have a spirit of power, we have a spirit of love, and what's the third one? We have a spirit of discipline or self-control. Like that's what a lot of your translations say. How does that fit? God gives us a spirit of discipline. Well, it's doing the hard things when it's hard to do. And part of the gift that God has given us, it allows us to, like I said, get over ourselves and do the hard things, especially when it's hard, overcoming the fear and just realizing that there's something better and that we need to be sharing that with people. Now, This was a short lesson, and this obviously was designed to encourage us who are Christians to use our gifts, to use our talents, use what we have, use what God has given you. But I want us to think about this. No matter where you are in your relationship with God right now, if you are a Christian and you haven't been using those gifts, or even if you're not a Christian, you realize you are not living up to your full potential. Because God has a plan for you and God expects you to do certain things. And he's ready to help you to become a child of his right now. If there's anything that we can do to assist you in obeying the Lord, come forward as we stand and sing.